Jose. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm pretty good, thank you. So before we get started on what brings you in today, I just kind of want to go over confidentiality a little bit. I want you to understand that everything we talk about in here will stay in here because I value what you're divulging and that relationship that we have. There are a couple exceptions I want to let you know of, okay? So one would be if you say something that is potentially harmful to yourself or to anyone else, then I would have to breach that confidentiality, but it would be completely in the best interest of you, okay? And the only other situation would be if there were a court order of some kind where I was mandated to answer a question or anything, but know that if I did, it would completely be the minimum that's being asked of me legally by law, okay? Do you understand that?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so what brings you in?
What brings me in today is just the relationship with my parents that I have. It's not what I want it to be, and that's kind of it's an issue for me since I still live with them, so I still have to kind of see them on a daily basis, and just the environment at home. It's not hostile, but it's a little bit difficult to manage. So it's just, I followed ever since growing up. My parents have been, very overprotective, and they wouldn't really let me go out and hang out with friends, and especially not spend the night at somebody else's house. So that was always an issue, and growing up and being, a little kid or a teenager, that was fine with me. But now that I'm 23, and I'm starting to have pretty much a life in a sense, and just getting to know people and friends, and then just having that social interaction, it's a little bit difficult because they are very still overprotective, even though I am 23. And if I want to go out of town for the night, to go and just hang out in LA, or just go visit somewhere else and explore, they're still they don't want me to do that. They're like, no, you can stay here, we can go as a family, or you can do this, like there's no need for you to do that, and or you can come back the same day, there's no need for you to spend the night. So then that's an ongoing issue that I have with them.
Okay, so I'm hearing that you still live with your parents, and since you were young, you sort of have this relationship with them where they're very overprotective of you, and you're kind of struggling with that now that you're a bit older and starting to have more opportunities to go and explore and do everything you want to do. So how does it make you feel in those moments when they're like, I'd prefer you didn't go, or maybe we can do this instead? How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel like I am almost like not a slave, but I don't have freedom. Like I don't have the freedom that I'm meant to have. Like I mentioned, I'm 23, and in other cultures, it will be perfectly fine for somebody who's even 18 and already do and go wherever they want to, and it's not like I just leave and don't tell my parents where I'm going. Like of course before I leave, like hey, I'm gonna go this place with so and so. I'll be back at this time. But yeah, whenever because we had an issue with them to where I never really had gone for the night anywhere, and then because I hate conflict and I get anxiety whenever I'm gonna tell them that I'm gonna do something like that, because just the way that they've been in the past of not letting me do it. So I finally, during the summer, I told them like, well, I'm gonna go to LA for the night, I'll be back tomorrow, this and that. And the first time that I kind of took them by shock because they didn't know what to say, so they were just like, oh, okay, like stay safe, or all of that sort. And then the next time, a few weeks later, I told them again, and then this time, my dad let me to talk, and then so he and my mom came, and it was pretty much mostly my dad doing the talking, and then that's whenever he told me all this, that you live under our house, you live under a roof, so you need to follow our rules, and you can't be going on and spending night places like this. It's like it's a bad example for your sibling because I'm the oldest. So then they're like, your brother who's 18, he's gonna be, let's say he wants to go all these places too, and this and that. So it made me feel upset and a little anger and kind of disappointment and a lot of emotions at the same time.
Yeah, okay, so a lot of emotions coming through.
Mm-hmm.
Can you expand a little bit on the disappointment that you feel? Is it towards them?
In a sense, yeah, because I feel like maybe if like they don't have any trust in me, so that I'm disappointed that they don't have that trust that as a parent you should have on your child. And of course, I'm not saying for them to just let me do whatever the heck I want. It's more of a, instead of them coming at me like this and telling me you can't do this, you can't do that. You can do it as a family if you wanted to. Then they should be like, yeah, you're able to do it, this and that. With of course some restrictions, because I do understand that I am under their house still, so I do have to follow technically, their rules. But at the same time, it's disappointing that they don't let me have that freedom that I would want.
Right. Yeah, that would definitely be disappointing. What did you reply in that situation during that conversation where they kind of sat you down and told you where they were coming from?
I didn't say much because then it goes to a different issue which I won't touch, but I just kind of me and my dad have very completely opposites. We have completely different ideas. We think very differently. So I've learned to bite my tongue whenever I'm talking with him or he's telling me something and I don't agree with, because at this point I've realized that it's pointless for me to argue with him because there's no breaking him. He's really stubborn, and I'm just wasting my breath by me trying to argue with him and try to make him understand where I'm coming from. And I learned that a long time ago. So now whenever me and him have conversations like that or arguments like that, I pretty much just stand there, nod my head, and pretend like I will do whatever he wants. But at the end, I did. I just asked because even through this issue, I was just nodding my head and just saying yeah, kind of rolling my eyes. We were in the car and I was in the back seat, so they couldn't really see me unless my dad was turning my way. But at the end, I just pretty much told them, I was like, well, I'll see you guys tomorrow. And they got out of the car, and I got on my car, and then they started driving to LA.
Okay. And then after that conversation, your father got to sort of tell you where he was coming from, and then you sort of from past experience have learned to, you said, bite your tongue.
Mm-hmm.
So after that conversation, maybe you went to, you were alone at some point. What was kind of going through your head towards yourself, like your feelings towards yourself?
I guess unhappiness is the feeling that probably overwhelmed me at the most during that time, because there's so many things I want to do and so many places I want to visit, and I feel like I can't do that while living at home. And then just going and thinking about that on my drive over to LA, well, I left that night or that day, just kind of feeling sorry for myself as well, because it's I really do want to have a social life, and that's part of me that has stopped me from going out with my friends and just hanging out with them, going to bars even though I don't really drink, just kind of have the social interaction that I want with them. I really don't have it even though I want it, so I'm trying to kind of cope with that, with those feelings of wanting something and not being able to get it, and I feel unhappy a lot of the times.
Okay, and that's a very big emotion to have, unhappiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of see if you can gauge on a scale of 1 to 10 how unhappy you are just in your daily life, like not necessarily during these conversations, but in general, where would you say you fall?
1 being unhappy. Okay.
One being the most happy, and then 10 being the most unhappy.
Okay. I'll probably fall um, on my daily life. I would probably say 6.5.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like in my regular life I'm not unhappy because I'm not constantly thinking about that issue. So I'm a little bit happy in a sense, like slightly over the middle portion of unhappy and happiness. Um, but I would feel like definitely if I didn't live at home, I would probably be, probably an 8 or 9.
Okay. So an 8 or 9 being you're 8 or 9 happy.
Yeah, if I didn't live with my parents, that's what I feel like I would be at.
Okay. Okay. So then, in the middle of the scale, you're slightly below being, towards unhappy, right? Okay. So that's good. And what would be sort of your goal if you had, a wish for how this situation would turn out, where, you can be happy, and you maybe, your parents could be happy, because it seems like you do value them as, your parents, and respect them being the providers of the household. So what would be your ideal outcome between you guys?
Well, it'd definitely be part of understanding and just being able to have a conversation without my parent saying that's wrong from anything that I try to argue. And just pretty much being able to sit down and have a conversation that we're both able to, agree on, or just kind of put our feelings on the table. And again, I'm not asking for them to just forget about me while I'm at home and not ask me where I'm doing or anything like that. It's more about, I just want to sit with them and ask them, what are the rules that I need to follow? Because that is something I asked them during, our talk that we had. I was like, well, what are the rules that you want me to follow, and then I'll follow them, or what are they, so that I can, try and negotiate with you those rules, so we can come at a happy, middle point. And then my dad was just, well, there's no rules, but then he told me the rules, so it makes no sense. Like, yeah, there's no rules. We're not saying that there's any rules. You just have to follow what we say. So it's like, so there is rules, but then, again, I was like, I didn't want to argue with him. So that's definitely my main goal, will be just be able to sit down with them, have a meaningful conversation about this issue, and being able to come at a happy middle ground to where, they feel like they have some power over me, or in a sense, and to where I can feel like I have more freedom than I have now.
Right. Okay. And what do you think it will take for you guys to reach that point?
At this point, I have no idea. Like I said, my dad is very stubborn through many issues. Like, I've tried to reason with him and have the conversation, but he's always just so stubborn. And even my brother knows that. And my brother is at that point where he knows it, and that's how I was before too. At his age, like, I knew my dad was stubborn, and I would just still argue with him, just to argue with him and get a kick out of it. That's what my brother is now. But the way that I am now, it's more of a, I'm done, like, I'm tired, like, there's no point of me doing this. So I really have no idea what it would take. I've been trying to reason with him for, as long as I can remember, and nothing can get through his head. So.
Okay. And then what about your mother? What's that relationship like?
I mean, there's a relationship, like, there's in a sense it's good. It's a good relationship, but it's not as good as I would want it to be. Especially whenever we were having this conversation with my dad, it was all three of us in the car, and then pretty much whenever we have any sort of talk like that, when my dad is telling me something about, or giving me a lesson or whatever it is, my mom's always just there, like, sitting or whatever she's doing, and she's not saying anything or trying to defend me or trying to, or not even supporting my dad. She's just sitting there, like, saying nothing. So.
Okay. Have you tried to sort of have conversations with her one-on-one about how you're feeling?
No, it's I'm very, when it comes to that, I also don't, like I said, I hate confrontation. So I get a lot of anxiety when that's going to happen, so never actually had sat down with her and had any sort of conversation about that.
Okay, okay. And do you feel as though perhaps you could benefit from a conversation like that with her?
I do,
Okay.
but I'm unsure as to when I will be ready for me to have the conversation with her.
Okay. And I know, with the anxiety that you get from having those confrontations in general, do you think that maybe that's stopping you from saying everything that you would want to say to reason with your father? Do you feel as though you've said everything you could say, or do you think there's still some things perhaps you're holding back?
At this point, I feel like I've pretty much said it all.
Okay.
Which is the reason why I probably gave up, because there was just nothing for me to say. Or if there is, I can't think of any at the moment as to that.
Okay. Okay. So I think this this would be a good opportunity perhaps to before our next session to think on some of those things, maybe in those moments where maybe he was doing a lot of the talking and you didn't get to say everything. Sometimes people talk and we lose track of our points. Maybe think about something, even one thing you haven't said, and think about if that is important to you to have said. Don't necessarily think about how it'll affect him, but how will it affect you having said it? How will it empower you? And then also see if you can perhaps have that conversation with your mom, or maybe just mentally prepare for it, because it is a great thing that you say you have a good relationship, and you also mentioned perhaps there's room to grow there and have a better relationship, and maybe that's something that could help. So just some things to think about, and the next time we meet, maybe you can talk to me about whether or not you tried them and how they worked, okay?
Okay.
Do you have any other questions, anything I can help you with before we leave today?
No, that was about it.
Okay, perfect. Well, have a good day then, Jose, and I'll see you next time.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay.
And see you.
See you. Oh my god, one of my foot was falling asleep. I was like,